You know, just kind of out of curiosity, was anybody else thinking about that song by ICP when watching this movie?
It's about the boogie woogie man. Keep your light on as long as you can.
I know I was. So The Boogeyman is a new horror monster flick based on a short story by Stephen King. And I do mean short. I think the original story is like 10 pages long. And when it comes to movies, when Stephen King is involved, you're either going to end up with something pretty good, or you're going to end up with something pretty bad. But this movie follows this family who are all in the mourning after the death of a loved one. And in the middle of all this emotional turmoil, there's this creature that latches itself onto the family and begins to target the youngest child. And now they gotta find a way to stop it before it does something very bad. From the jump, this movie sets a tone right from the start. Tone and atmosphere is what really drives this movie, and what better way to start your movie off than with a child murder? And I think what the Boogeyman really excels at is preying off that fear that we all had as kids, where we think there's something in the dark that wants to get us. There's a lot of moments in this movie where characters are checking the closet, they're looking under the bed. For me, it was like having a Vietnam flashback. A character will look under the bed or something like that, and I'm just like, I don't think that's the smartest thing to do right now. The Boogeyman in this movie is kind of like the sword of Damocles. You're just like, when is it going to get somebody? When is it going to get somebody? So you're really just kind of on edge the entire time as they struggle to figure out what the hell to do about this thing. And the tone and atmosphere of this movie is really elevated by the character performances. Every character in this movie is just kind of on edge. And I don't think there's necessarily a bad performance in the Boogeyman. Everybody kind of does a pretty good job. You feel for the family because they just lost a loved one, and now there's this creature that just wants to snatch away their daughter. Vivian Lila Blair, I think that's how you say her name. She is definitely the highlight of this movie. She just has a really bright future ahead of her in acting. You buy it when she's afraid. She's snarky as all hell. There are just moments where you want to scoop this kid up and just give her a hug, because the amount of fear she's able to invoke in her performance is just unreal. I think the last time I saw her in anything, I think it was the Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney+. She's a good actress. I thought Sophie Thatcher did a really good job in this movie as well, because she's the character that ultimately has to step up to the plate and figure out what the hell is going on. Her dad is a depressed mess. Her little sister is coming under attack by this entity that no one seems to understand. So really, you ultimately kind of end up going on this journey with her to save her sister, but also just overcome the grief and despair that she's feeling. And I really think that's another interesting way to look at this movie, is that this movie is ultimately just an allegory for grief and despair. Grief and despair and how to overcome it. And you really do see that come to light by the end of this movie. I think if you're going to take away anything from this movie, that's a pretty good damn thing to take away. As for the Boogeyman itself, I'm just going to say this. I don't know if the people behind this movie played the indie horror game just simply titled Boogeyman, but the Boogeyman looks exactly like the Boogeyman from that game. And they do the Jaws technique where they kind of keep it cloaked in shadow for a majority of the thing, and they really don't show you what it really looks like until the end. It's almost like if Gollum had a baby with the Rake or something like that. Or hell, it might as well just be the Rake. This movie's been out long enough. I don't want to hear anything about spoilers. Now, one thing that does kind of drag this movie down just a bit is the amount of tropes and cliches that it has. I'm talking about tropes and cliches that you see in every single horror film that comes out. Especially in those Spielberg-like movies where it's all about the kids and the adults are kind of in the background. You know, you got the dad that doesn't believe the kids, even though there's a shit ton of evidence pointing to this thing that they're trying to tell him about. Dad, something tried to drag me under the bed. Something is trying to kill me. Ah, you silly kids. You're just having nightmares. Everything will be alright. You got that one. And then, of course, you can't forget the gun-tooting badass that knows every single thing about this creature that the character needs to learn about. When you're lost in the darkness, look to the light. In fact, there's a scene at the beginning of this movie that is very reminiscent of a movie that came out last year. Come to think of it, that movie also dealt with themes about despair and depression. Can you guess what it is? I'll give you 3 seconds to guess what it is. If your answer was Smile, you are correct. There's even a scene in this movie where a character is giving a sit-down interview just like the scene in Smile. And then about 5 minutes later, they're dead as shit. You guys really thought I was not gonna notice that? Like, come on. I saw 65 movies in 2022. How the hell did you not think I wouldn't remember Smile? And then you get that ending scene where it turns out the monster might not be gone. And in fact, we may or may not have a sequel in the works. I don't know, but this movie was sequel baiting the fuck out of everybody. I mean, of the Boogeyman movies we've gotten in the past 20 years, this is the best one. If you want to make a sequel, why the hell not? In the end, guys, I didn't think the Boogeyman was bad. It certainly has flaws, but if Halloween rolled around and I wanted to watch something spooky with the family, I'd probably bring this up. Don't let kids watch it though. I know this movie's PG-13, but that opening scene alone is a good reason for your kids to not watch this movie. It's probably already going to Blu-ray by now, but you know what? The Boogeyman is a good matinee. Definitely get some popcorn for it. Alright, but thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And thank you guys so much for tuning in for my review for the Boogeyman. Once again, I'm trying out that new format where not every single one of my videos is scripted. Only half of it is like scripted. The other half is just me free-flowing. So if at any point during this video, if I sounded like a moron or if I was just ranting and raving, just bear with me, like I said in the past few videos. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new. And as always, I'm the Unbiased Movie Nerd. I'm saying peace, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace out, everybody.